so you know who we are now and why we're here. So I'm Sam. I've worked for the CIOB for around about 6.5 years. I started off with the East of England branch and this year moved across to London branch. So I've done lots of things with Novus, with the CIOB, different groups of students in different areas. So there's lots of things really that I've been involved in that I can help you with. Basically that is why we're here, what Christine has said. There's lots of opportunities for you as students and members of the CIOB. Hopefully lots of you are already joined. Can we have a show of hands for anybody that is a student member? Not bad at all. Very good. And how many of you actually did that when you first joined uni, first year? So quite a few of you have done it for a while now. Good. Probably things that are part of the benefits that you may not even know about is the fact that you can actually have a voice in the construction industry, no matter what level you're at, by communicating with branch, with our Novus group, with the lecturers, with us. The university have got good links with us, as have all the universities across London. And we do actually look to students to get feedback, get suggestions, and see what it is that you want so that we can provide what's needed for you. Making sure that you know what's next for you as well is important to us today. A lot of people will graduate, and if they haven't come across us during their time and have just perhaps signed up at the beginning, don't really know what they're doing. We're here to tell you what the options are, and if you've got any questions about your own particular path, it might be different to somebody else's, so please feel free to ask. Just making sure that you do actually understand the importance of keeping up to date with everything, how important it is to be proven as a professional in the industry. So hopefully I will be this role model for you, will tell you really how it works for you. So some of you don't know much about the CIOB, I presume, because we're not all members. So I'm going to just show you a short video which outlines all benefits, all the different aspects there are to the CIOB, how long we've been around, that type of thing. So I'll put that on for you now.
Can I make a suggestion? You turn the light switches behind you, and then we've got a better. That's it. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Managing construction always appealed to me. I wanted a career, not a job, one where I could make a difference. I joined as a student. It made me feel like I belonged, and I had support from the start. Construction management spans the full life cycle of a building, from design to construction, operation and beyond. Once you start your career, you realise the positive impact you can make on society and issues like sustainability and the economy. And you get to develop and play with really high-tech technology. I use the CIOB resources all the time. The publications, experts and mentors and forums are all really useful, giving me up-to-date information on all the things I need to know about. What I help to create can change lives for the better, and being a member of the CIOB helps me do that. The CIOB story is fascinating. Founded in 1834, its members have left their mark all around the globe, in places like the Houses of Parliament, the Petronas Towers, Sydney Opera House, and the Beijing 2008 Olympics. A few weeks ago, I met the construction director behind the London 2012 Games. He's a CIOB fellow. That makes me feel proud to be part of the same community. It's inspiring. I first heard of the CIOB at university because the Institute accredited my course. I became a student member and as a result made some fantastic business connections and friends along the way. When you join the CIOB, you get access to first-class knowledge through their publications and online resources, and access to the minds of leaders and other members through the forums and CPD events. But the big prize is being recognised as a qualified chartered professional. The professional qualification, MCIOB, takes you places. It can take you all over the world and is known and respected everywhere. It tells employers you're at the top of your game. A degree benchmarks you, but the CIOB recognition is current. It's way more than a qualification. It demonstrates competence, proficiency, ability and professionalism. You can't become a member by simply filling in a form. It takes more effort than that. But depending on where you are in your career, there's a route you can take. One size doesn't fit all, so, for example, if you have a lot of experience but not lots of academic qualifications, there's a path for you, and vice versa. What makes the Institute unique is not just how highly valued its professional qualification is, but the diversity of members' roles. From those that design to those who build, right through to those who can serve and beyond. And all members can benefit from that wide base of knowledge. I've met members working on heritage projects like castles in the UK, and members in China working on some of the most eye-popping futuristic projects you can imagine. I've got a lot out of meeting other members in different disciplines. It gives me greater insight for what they do and for how I can improve, learn new skills and get better results. Construction is a team-based industry after all. There are lots of opportunities for members to get involved with the CIOB, either through local, national or international networks, social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or by taking part in special interest groups. It gives me a platform to influence the government and others by passing on what I know and sharing my views through the Institute. It gives me a voice. There are lots of other ways to make your voice heard too, on a wide range of topics. Members get a huge amount of support. Career advice, training packages, access to jobs, scholarships, information services, and loads of other things. One thing the industry doesn't do often enough is shout about its success. For 30 years, the CIOB has celebrated the achievements of its members through its Construction Manager of the Year awards. The awards showcase the best of the best in the industry. There are also awards that promote the exciting new developments in innovation and research from across the globe. It's a competitive market out there, and being a CIOB member really does put you ahead of the curve. Statistics show that if you have a professional qualification, you'll earn more over your career than if you don't. Up to 150k more, in fact. Members are also more employable because you pick up so many transferable skills. Apart from the obvious benefits you get from joining, there's perhaps a more important element. As a CIOB member, you subscribe to a code of conduct which says something deeper. It means that as well as being a competent, qualified professional, you're also ethical. And the value of that can be felt throughout the industry and society. If you're serious about your career, think about joining. It is worth it. Find out more at www.ciob.org.
Tells you a little bit there about the CIOB, how long we've been around and everything. Just give you a little bit of background about the London branch. It's been running for almost 50 years. We've had a lot of different chairmen across that time, and in the latter years we've had two more committees involved, which is Novus and our sustainability group. In the CIOB as a whole, we've got around 45,000 members, and in London we've got just over 4,000, so it's almost 10% are based in London. And of those, we've got around 800 students at the moment that are all members with us. So hopefully those student members will then go to progress and work their way up to all become chartered as well. Hand over to Io to tell you a bit about himself.
Thanks for coming along. I know it's quite hard to come up to another lecture after you've had your afternoon lecture, so I appreciate you guys turning up. Hopefully you won't be let down after the drum roll that I've got from Christine and Sam, but here goes. So, my name's Aya Alu. I'm 34 years old and I'm a senior design manager for Kier Construction in London. My office is based out in Loughton, first up off the M11. If you're ever driven up to Stansted, it's a big building on your left that says Kier on it, and you've seen it. And I sit there on the first floor. I live just up the road, actually, in Forest Hill, so I know this area well. I'm always skulking around the university grounds on the weekend, you know, up at the park and that sort of thing. I've always lived in London, always lived in South London. Used to live in Brixton, and then I moved south east and been there ever since. So that's me. How did I get into construction? Very simply, through university. Why am I in construction? Because it's probably the industry that allows me to manifest my natural skills and talents in the most efficient way. So just to give you a bit of an overview as to what I do. As a senior design manager for Kier, I am responsible for the education sector. What that means is, I will start with a client at a stage 0 of a project. So I start with a client, a blank sheet of paper, their vision, and a budget, and a program, and you'll end up with one of these, basically. So I will take them through the whole engagement process. I will engage architects, engineers, specialist consultants, put them all in the mix, squash it with the parameters, and at the end of that process, there'll be a contract and the beginning of the build. And at the end of it, you get this. At the moment, projects I'm working on, I have probably about 11 projects on my books in pre-construction at the moment. So I have 9 design managers who work in my team. Each of them is allocated to a project, and they are all education projects, and they all come from different frameworks. A lot of them are public procurement, only 1 or 2 of them are private, but they all come from the government's different frameworks, which are routes by which they bring their projects to the market. Okay? The role itself means that I cover a lot of ground. It means that I have to know a lot about design, I have to know a lot about cost, I have to know a lot about risks, I have to know a lot about programs and construction methodology. But it doesn't mean I have to know everything about it. Okay, I need to understand the principles so that I can apply them to that role for that client. Who do I regularly deal with? From the client side, I will deal with their funder, I will deal with their architect and their design team, I will deal with their risk managers, I will deal with the end user when you're working on education projects. Those are education and health, the 2 main sectors of which you deal directly with the end user to make sure that you've got the product right. On a day-to-day basis, when I'm in the office, I deal with my internal colleagues, and they will be planners. I'm sure we've got some here. There'll be estimators, there'll be construction managers, there'll be design managers, there'll be risk managers, directors, God love them, and and subcontractors. Okay? What's a typical day? Typical day, I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm in the office by 4:30. That was a joke. Went straight over the head. Seriously, construction, you can get an early start because we like to be on site by 7:30 so that everyone's inducted and ready to start by 8. But generally, I get up at 7, leave at 7:30, cross the Blackwood Tunnel, and I'm in the office by 8 o'clock. And I generally will work a 10-hour day, so I'll leave at 6. If there's pressure on and I've got bids in, I can end up doing a 12, 13, 14, 15-hour day, whatever it takes. But you don't have to worry about that because that's all dependent on the company and how they resource things. Okay? But generally, you can expect to do a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 6. That's sort of a day. I'll come in, check my emails, find out what's happened the night before. Set up teams for the day. I've got meetings, attend those. There is a plethora of things that I do on a day-to-day basis. I could be on-site auditing someone in the morning, and I could be pitching to a client in the afternoon. There's that sort of range of job that I do. Why did I join the CIOB? And what did I gain from being a member? Being truthful, I joined the CIOB because I realized that there needed to be something to set me apart from everybody else who was in the industry. I started working for a company called Bouygues, and they hired me as their first UK graduate. Bouygues was sort of experimenting when they landed in the London market. They were experimenting with how they hire British people, and they thought they'd get some graduates and sort of, see how they got on. So I joined the CIOB as part of their initial PDP program, which they were rolling out. And it just snowballed from there. That was in 2007. We did a lot of work setting up Novus in 2008. And benefits I get from being a member, I honestly can't quantify, because they're fiscal, definitely fiscal, without a doubt. The level of respect that you get from other people in the industry is something you cannot quantify either. And that's not to say that if you don't have these post-nominals, you're not respected. But if you think about it on a scale of competency, 1 to 10, if you've got your post-nominals and you are a registered chartered construction manager, you fly to a 7, yeah? Because you've been through that. So just to emphasize what Sam and Christine were saying, that's really the reason why we do what we do. So, a little bit about I went to college in Selden, South Croydon, John Ruskin College, and I did A&S levels. Those were the ones I did. You could tell at that point I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I just thought, let's just try a few things. I went on to Brighton University to do a degree in project management for construction. I actually started off doing mechanical engineering because I always liked maths and I was good at maths, so I thought I'd give it a go. Got to uni, had a shock. So I didn't want to spend the next 4 years with my head stuffed in a book just learning fluid mechanics. Much as I thought it was good, again, it's using my core skills and using what I thought I was best at. So mathematics, yes, but not necessarily, hiding away from the world, bashing out counts. That wasn't what I wanted to do. So at the end of the first year, when I realised that mechanical engineering wasn't for me, I went down to the board and thought, how about a change? I looked up and down and just stuck it on project management and construction because it sounded like the kind of course I wanted to work on. I got through that. I got a 2-1, and I spent the next 11 years working for main contractors. Okay, and main contractors examples are Kia, Wilmot Dixon, Balfours, Calpines, that sort of a mix of companies. I just want to pause on that point. Main contractors, as big as they are and prominent as they are certainly not the only route to being established in the construction industry. There are hundreds of thousands of other ways that you can get into the industry and have just as important an effect on the outcome, the product, as a main contractor. Okay? Specialist consultants, client design advisors, working for local authorities in their planning and estates department, all sorts of different ways. You'd even be surprised. You could look at companies like Tesco, and look at their property team. Tesco and people like Marks and Spencer have their own internal property teams who hire project managers, simply because they need their buildings to be managed before somebody comes along and builds them. So, just something for you to think about. I have more than one professional membership. I've got the CIOB, Chartered Institute of Building. I'm also a member of the Association of Project Managers, and I'm also an associate of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. I've always worked on the sort of basis of being an all-rounder. Right? I've never been one just to try and hone in on a subject and understand that to its ultimate, degree. I've always thought, if I can touch everything and get a good understanding of everything, that puts me in a better position. But that's just me. Some of you might quite like to have one specialism and hone in on that, and that is just as important as having that overview. Okay? I moved around from different companies in order to see the similarities between how they work and just get knowledge of how other people do things. So, for instance, I started at Bouygues, a French company. They do things very differently from the rest of the UK. I then went on to work for Balfour Beatty, and on Wilmots and Kia. So I've seen a good mix of contractors in the UK, and I can honestly tell you, apart from Bouygues, they're all the same. Everyone does it the same way. So, as a start, I was a site engineer and an assistant design manager. I did a couple of projects out in Barking and Dagenham. They were the first PFI schools that we did in this country, and I was responsible for the groundworks and the superstructure. So basically, straight out of uni, on site, pouring concrete. That was the first job. What I would say is that site management, as a sort of hilltop for seeing the way the whole industry works, is brilliant, because you see everything as a site manager. You see how it goes from a drawing to an order to a subcontract actually being built. So being a site manager is a really good platform. I then went on to do the Lewisham PFI schools. I did 3 schools in the borough of Lewisham. And I then went on to work in Peterborough on 2 PFI schools that we were working on, and this was back in 2006, 2007. It was at this point where I'd done a couple of years on site, and I realised that though I liked being there, boots in the mud, seeing how it all goes together, there was something else that was kind of missing. I was always thinking to myself, what happens before this? I end up with the drawing on site. Yeah, that goes there, that looks right. Why isn't that done? Those sorts of questions. I started thinking to myself, what happens before that? What's the process that puts this drawing in my hand? Why is this mistake on this drawing? Why wasn't it picked up? That sort of thing. So took a step back, went into the office and went to the design department. And I started off writing bids, so putting together proposals, writing planning submissions, all that sort of thing. Started working with the design teams, the architects, the engineers, seeing how they thought about buildings before they actually stitched them together. Right? Last thing I say about being a site engineer is that you learn all the administrative functions for work packages. You learn the legals because you put together a contract. You learn the commercials because you're working out the payment schedule for that guy. Okay? He has to come to you and say, I've done this amount of work. You say, yes, I agree, there it is, I'll sign it off. That sort of thing. Yeah. 2007 to 2008, short stint, and this was because I was seconded to Metronet. And I don't know if any of you remember what happened to the PPP back then. This was the public-private partnership that actually folded and sunk the Metronet boat. But that's why I was only there a year, because it died. But anyway, what I was doing for Balfour Beatty Civil Engineering was I was doing the station upgrades. So after that time on site and a little bit of time in the office, I then took a bit of a segue into project management for tube stations, basically. So I started doing up tube stations. And I did Lancaster Gate Tube Station in West London, and I did Brixton Tube Station, which was, at the time, about 5 minutes walk from my house, so it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. In fact, it's never happened to me since. And that's one thing about construction. We've got this, it's a badge of honour that comes with travelling a really, really, really long distance to work. And it's a funny way of working, and we're going to snap out of it soon, but you know, further away from work you live, for some reason, the better you are. Go figure. So I did Lancaster Gate, I did Brixton Tube Station, and I worked on the VLU upgrade, with the VLU team. And this is, you know, all the changes you've seen on the Victoria line. I don't know how many of you use the Victoria line, but it's now got air conditioning, it's now got new lights down there, you've got new escalators, all that sort of thing. So that's what I worked on. It was an interesting time because, as you know, you can't work on a tube station during the day. So I spent the whole day programming, planning, scheduling works, all for a 4.5, 5-hour window at night time. And in that 5-hour window, you cram 100 guys onto the platform, guys and girls, cram 100 people onto the platform, and get as much work done as you can. 5:30 in the morning, you're out of there, you go back to the office, and you start planning for the next night's work. So, a bit of a flip from what I was doing before, but a very interesting dynamic. Extremely detailed, as you can imagine with a highly unionised client such as London Underground, but it was really, really interesting. And unfortunately, it was a shame that there was so much inefficiency in that process because, you know, we all see the heritage of our tube stations. We all know that they have to be refurbished, otherwise, you know, they just won't last. But that was a really good scheme, and it's just a shame it went away. After that, I then went back to being a design manager and a bid manager. So I went to Wilmot Dixon this time, and I was based out in Cobham, which is out in Surrey, and I was a design manager and a bid manager. And these are just a list of some of the projects that I did. Wainsels was one of the first timber CLT schools in the country, and certainly the largest at the time. I was the design manager on that. Guildford Civic Hall in Guildford was a large-scale theatre. Clapham Travelodge in London, just around the corner on Falcon Road for anyone who goes to Clapham. Oakbank School in Reading. There's a leisure centre there, and you can see just the variety of projects that I've worked on. Again, a lot of schools coming through, and this is indicative of the market that we're in. I'm sure you all know about the shortage of places that there are in the country, and how many primary school places that we need to build. And it was at that point that real demand started coming through from the government, and that really sort of fed into my workload within these years. 2013 to present. UK Construction London, Senior Design Manager, Education Sector. That list of acronyms across the top, they stand for the National Academies Framework, the SCAPE Framework, the Southern Construction Framework, the Local Housing Construction Framework, the Priority Building Schools Programme, the EFA Regional Framework, and the FSP Free Schools Programme. Sometimes you have to remember this. I really like my job. It's good. It is good. got to be honest about these things. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it, and it allows you the room to use the skills that you've got, which, you know, you're probably just working out now what you really like and what you don't like. Some of you really like the planning modules, some of you are really into the CAD and the BIM modules, some of you are really into the legal stuff and the finance, some of you are all about the technology and how it goes together on site, the methodology, the building, the brains, numbers, all of it. But you start to shape that vision now. And then when you actually get out into the market, you get your first taste of something, and that will be the real sort of litmus test as to whether you like it or not, or whether you're going to switch over and do something. I keep coming back to schools for some reason, because I can work with end users. You know, they appreciate my approach to working. I appreciate their sort of candor in building a project. And we find it really, you know, it's a good synergy that we have. So basically, that's me today. That's me from 2003 up until now. And it's been okay. So what do I do for the CIOB? I was the founding chairman of the CIOB Nobles. Basically, back in 2007, Christine, Jill, myself, a chap called Stefan, another guy called Tom, and two other people I can't remember at the moment, were responding to some research that the CIOB did. And the research ultimately spat out the result that industry members were, it's going to sound cruel, they were too old, frankly. And the average industry member age was 53. There's nothing wrong with that. But in a growing industry, growing market, where you're trying to appeal to people coming out of university, if you're gearing stuff up to 53-year-olds, you're not really helping anyone. So we had to respond to that by setting up a vehicle for younger members to get involved, network, see what's going on in the industry, and really try and, you know, get involved. I'm also the vice chair of the London branch, as I mentioned, and unless I do something horribly wrong, I'm going to be the chair come May next year. So I hope to see some of you guys at the AGM. You see my name, put your hand down. Okay? 5 is in the goodie bag. Also for the CIOB, I am the UK time zone representative. We have different international time zones. We're UK and Ireland. We have the Americas, we have Asia, we have Africa, and I'll represent the CIOB in that respect. We meet twice yearly to discuss problems which are common to all of our branches and all of our okay. Sometimes it involves travel. Quite recently, Christine and I went to Doha in Qatar, basically, and we were doing some work with the Qatari government about related to ethical procurement of labour. And it was extremely interesting because you know they just won the World Cup. So all this hoo-ha over the drivers, everyone's reading articles in the Guardian saying, you know, you're not choosing people properly and so on and so forth. So this is what the CIOB do. We went out there to investigate. We went out there to relay government ministers, look at some of these labour camps that people were talking about, and really get to grips with what we could see was the problem. And we found some interesting stuff. We've got some really good feedback from it, and we've got some really strong links with the Qatari government. And this is the kind of thing that the Institute allows you to do. And I set up the Policy and External Relations Board. That is, like I say, a very prestigious board. It's very interesting because it makes you realise just how much policy, bureaucracy, red tape there is surrounding working for an organisation like CIOB, a charity. You understand how a charity affects the government, and vice versa, how the government affects the charity, how you strengthen links with certain organisations to further the cause of the Institute of Building. And that's what this board does. And it's, you know, it's my new baby, and I'm really enjoying sitting on it, so I'll give you some feedback in due course. CIOB. As I mentioned, I'm MAPM as well, and Associate RICS too. But I find the CIOB extremely inclusive, very, very inclusive. It's an umbrella for everyone. It doesn't just talk to project managers. It doesn't just talk to chartered surveyors. You know, it's not just for architects. It just takes everybody, puts them in an envelope, and calls them construction managers. Right? And it caters for everyone. Our CPDs cater for everyone. do some which are legal bias, some which are financial bias, and so on and so forth. The network's brilliant. I think there were one or two of you here who were actually at the event last night, and I hope you got something out of it, but you will always get someone who is doing what you want to do in the CIOB, and that's the good thing. And you can tap into that person, and you can find out whether you're on the money or whether you need to change your mind. That access to people is there, just at the other end of a phone or an email. So make the most of it. It's internationally recognized, and we've got a growth strategy for overseas expansion as well, through our ambassador program and other initiatives. It's recognized by clients as a professional standard. Clients pick that up, they see you're a chartered construction manager, and like I said, you're already at a 7 out of 10. The rest is up to you. And it's a solid support network for student graduates. When you start to do your dissertations and you want people to answer your questionnaires, you'll send it out and you'll hope that people in the industry will respond and give you that answer so you can actually forge a decent thesis. So make the most of that contact because the people are there for you to talk to. And here was my route to membership. I did the PDP program, started in 2006, and I finished it off in 2007. And this was basically, the PDP program, I'm not sure how much of this you're aware of, but it's a 12, 13 module program which hits all your core behavioral, managerial, and technical competencies. And what you're meant to do is prove to yourself and prove to the person reviewing it that you know what you're doing. So for those of you who are choosing the PDP, I suggest you just get 2 big LibreArch files and just log information. When you do something, print an email, you log it in there. Do it electronically, however you want to do it. The key thing is to store what you do and record it, so that when you come back to it, you can use it as a frame of reference. Yeah? After my PDP, I went on and did a professional review. I quite enjoyed the professional review. It was a bit of a grilling, because you sit in front of sort of 6, highly qualified professionals, and they've got your resume in front of them, and you've told them everything that you think you know, then they start asking you what you really do know, about what you really do know. And the aim of the professional review is to push you until you fail. So they keep asking you questions, in more and more detail, until it gets to the point at which you have to say, unless you don't look silly, you have to say, I don't know, I haven't done it. And that's the point at which they look at it and go, yeah, okay, fair enough. I wouldn't have expected you to know that. Tick. If you're not at that point then, they'll say, I would have expected you to know that. Maybe you should give it another 6 months, get some experience and come back. So it can be quite daunting if you don't like that sort of thing, but some people thrive on that kind of atmosphere. So I quite liked it. PDP will benefit you as a graduate because it will structure your learning. It will allow you to go to your employer and say, I'm doing this PDP now. I need to tick these modules. You need to allow me the opportunity to tick these boxes, basically. So you won't be pigeonholed in one set, okay? And that's a very important thing. And it's a good method of finding out where your strengths and weaknesses are. What are you good at? Like I said, we're shaping those views now, but you'll see it. The true test of whether you can do something well is if you can explain it to somebody else, if you can write about it. And if you can do that, it means you've mastered it. If you can't, it means maybe you need to brush up on it. Okay? But that's just my view. And there you have the benefits of being a chartered construction manager. You have trust instilled by your employer, your peers and clients. It's a fact of life that you get an increased remuneration because of it. You then have a commitment to undertaking CPD, and CPD is critical. Because while concrete and bricks will always be concrete and bricks, the legislation around those concrete and bricks changes regularly. Okay? Climate change, the London weather system has such an influence in the way we construct buildings in London, which is different from the rest of the country. We have different standards to meet here on energy reduction, and you have to keep abreast of these things. 1 minute you could be designing a building saying you need 25% reduction in carbon over and above a certain level. 2 months later, it's a 40% reduction in carbon. And you have to be mindful of these things. Okay? And becoming a chartered construction manager also gives you an opportunity to vote on policy matters within the CIOB. The CIOB is hugely influential. It's the silent dragon at the moment. It's behind a lot of things They're not really out there in the media, but we touch a lot of people behind the scenes, basically. And here's another video on why you should go into construction. Put it this way, if you're sitting here now and you haven't made that decision, then maybe this will convince you. But like I said, it's an industry for all. If you're an accountant, you still work in construction. If you're a lawyer, you still do construction. It's extremely broad. Okay?
Do
Then?
you want to see if anyone's got any questions about all the things that I have spoken about?
Yes.
Myself? Anyone got any questions about his roles?
Does anyone want to know any? I can see there's quite a few.
Do you have to be graduated to start this?
Start the PDP.
Yeah, could you start it now and then by the time you graduate?
You can start it if you're part-time or
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
If you're
salaried,
part-time,
yes.
definitely. It's just that unless you're getting that employer experience, it will be quite hard to finish it. But you can certainly start away as a student. Yeah.
Okay.
We've got some more slides coming up to explain how to actually go through the process as well, so hopefully by the end of that we'll know a little bit more again as well.
Okay, cool.
So, what was your ambassador program entail? Do you send people away from our country?
What we try and do for the ambassador program is find someone who's in that location already. So, if you're an ambassador within the UK, you could be an ambassador within an institute like Greenwich University, for instance. You could be an ambassador for that. If you're an international ambassador, we find you in your country of origin, bring you into the CIOB, and then tap into your wealth of knowledge over there. So that's probably the best way to explain it. We do send people overseas, but they're more administrative staff who go and perform functions for the centres in that country. So if an ambassador was setting up a branch, for instance, Sam might go over and help, give them some help setting that up, so that they're bringing them into line with what we do here in the UK. The headquarters is always in the UK. So
We've got 12 branches in the UK and Ireland and then another 9 overseas. So we're all doing the same thing pretty much around the world. Obviously each group links onto each other as well to make sure that we share best practice and understand what goes on in different areas.
Branches in the Americas and Asia.
Africa, Middle East,
Middle East.
Australasia, yeah.
any more?
What did you do first, Ricks or CIOB?
I did CIOB first, and then I did APM second, and then I did RICS afterwards. Which one are you thinking about going for RICS as well?
Yeah,
What's your course?
building surveyor.
And it's good because if you want to do RICS, basically it's a different accreditation system to the CIOB. If you don't have a building surveying degree, you have to go and do another, jump through another hoop, but you have to do another governance review before you can get your RICS. Because it's specifically for surveying. Any others?
When you achieve membership of the CIOB and RICS, is it something that you can use? I know you've got bases all over the world, but is it something that's internationally recognised as well? Or do you then, if you move to another country, do you then have to redo the DEP? Or?
No, the CIOB is internationally recognised, RICS is internationally recognised as well. The APM is recognised in the UK and in the Americas, but not in any other countries, I think. Not in Europe, certainly not in Europe anyway. But the CIOB definitely.
You can start on the CIOB things now and you can carry on to wherever you end up. So it'll go with you. If there's no more questions,
How much does it cost? Support.
For
Is it not costing? To renew your membership every year?
every year, you get a bill for your subscription fees, which is £250 a year. My company pays mine.
A lot of companies do support, and some support more than one as well. So if you are thinking of perhaps being a dual member,
Yeah. So my company pays all of my professional qualification fees.
and a lot of companies also pay towards your progression to get that chartered award as well. So if you're thinking of PDP, there's obviously a fee involved in that, but companies do support it. They like us to almost hold their hand really to get you through, so it does them a favour as well at the same time.
Well, the real favour it does is that it allows them to charge more for you.
Yeah.
So when your bill goes into a client for work you've done, it's not affecting your wages in any way, shape or form, I can tell you that. So the more qualifications you can get, the more expensive you are to a client. So from a contracting perspective, they're very keen on everyone having professional qualifications.
I mentioned about Marks and Spencer's. They're one of the clients that work with them in National Trust are very hot on who they will let come and work and build their construction projects. And they are looking for all of the delivery teams to be chartered, or if they're not, they've got to be working towards it. So I think it's something that's sort of client-led as well at the moment. They are looking who they can fit in.
Yeah. Any more?
If we just put this video on, it will just obviously give you a bit of an overview of all different roles and ideas that you may have sort of stumbled across already, and hopefully just reiterate really the reasons that you did choose construction related course.
And if there are any more questions that you do want to ask afterwards, then I'll be here if you just want to pop 5 to a quick chat. No problem. Okay?
Hi, my name is Salvatore Capotosto. I'm an assistant project manager for a main contractor called Mulali.
Hello, my name is Alison Crofton. I'm the technical director for house builder Barratt Developments.
Hi, my name is Jason Margits. I'm a developer for a renewable energy company called AG Renewables.
I'm an assistant project manager, so obviously my job covers all the management of the actual jobs once it gets on site.
And my job's very different to yours, Sal. I'm before you start on site. So I work on the pre-planning stages when we purchase the site. I look into all the technical details, as in what soil there are, all the services, all the constraints on site, and I have to plan and design up so that you guys on site can then use my information in order to do your role. So I'm very much the pre-production side of the industry.
My role's pretty different to the both of you really. It's kind of